Hi, this is Andrew Turner, and this is the G&T sessions, and we're now going to be recording the next episode of the podcast. This is episode 4, and today we've got a very special guest, my good friend, Mr. Lars Kruse from Copenhagen. Welcome, Lars, to the podcast, the G&T sessions.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy.
So great to have you on this session, and I'm fascinated with this next 45 minutes to hour session. So Lars and myself have known each other for a number of years, and he's achieved some amazing things already in the Scandinavian region and globally. And today's session, we're going to go through a bit of a segue on how the G&T, so growth and technologies, kind of influenced his history and also influenced the future as well. So maybe, I mean, as a brief introduction, do you want to explain a bit about yourself, Lars, as a bit of an introduction for the audience on this podcast?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so thrilled that you're inviting me to something, this famous podcast. So
infamous. Yeah.
I'm 50 years old now, just this month. So I've been working with technology always. Since the beginning of my career. I educated myself as a computer scientist from university. I was back then, it's long time ago. Back then, it wasn't obvious that I should work in this field, but and all my friends suddenly didn't. They didn't study computer science, so I was a bit on my own there. But I really had a genuine interest in it.
Is this before geeks were known as geeks?
Yeah. We didn't do geeks then, no. And in a way we did. I was actually working as a bicycle repairman, and I was, taking things apart and putting them together again. I was, among the friends that I had, I was certainly the first one to buy a computer. I was even late compared to some others, but I was really interested in all of this, and I thought that programming was really, really cool, and started doing that.
Well, it's a quick question, actually. Sorry to jump into your introduction, but what was the first computer you bought?
And that was in 86. That was that it had two floppy disks, and it was an IBM computer.
Oh, really? IBM? Okay.
Yeah. Had two floppy disks, and I think a 2 megabyte hard drive.
Mine was a ZX Spectrum.
Remember?
The Sinclair ZX Spectrum.
No, mine was I got it cheap because I think the guy who had it before me, he actually couldn't get it to work. So I just bought really a cardbox of pieces that he said. When he got it, it worked, but it didn't work anymore. So, and I didn't know anything about computers, but I actually managed to put the pieces together and get it to work. Sold it a year later. Made a good profit on that, actually. So then took on from there.
You're monetizing stuff even back in the heyday.
Yes. So in the beginning, it was all about computers, right? Just dismantling computers and hooking them up again and stuff like that. Later, I started programming. Obviously, I started hacking games. I started playing games, and then I started to hack the code, trying to figure out how to get more credits.
What you mean, like Donkey Kong? You mean, and stuff like that?
Yes, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, Pac-Man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, moving on, I got my computer science degrees. I have another degree in communication theory. So I combined those two. I went out, started working as a consultant. That was my first job. I worked as a consultant in a consultancy bureau for like 4 years, and then I quit my job and started as self-employed consultant. And then I've been self-employed ever since, and building companies ever since. So I actually only had an employer for like 4 years of my entire career. The rest of the time I've been on my own. Wow,
that's impressive. That. So before, what you're saying, before you were 30, you were basically plowing your own growth story. You were basically working out how you could grow a business.
Yeah. So that was when was it? Almost about when I was 30 years old. Yes, I started by myself. Yeah.
Wow. And what was your specialization then? What would you, so if you were consulting, then you had to have a specialization, did you?
Oh, but that is so cool, because I was doing this cool stuff about DevOps and continuous delivery and all of that stuff. That was, so what I did in the beginning was really that.
Mainframes, you do it with mainframes, don't you?
No, I didn't. I did, I did tools, all kinds of tools. I ended up, I mean, one of the first gigs I had at a bank in Denmark was that they wanted to do version control.
Right.
So they were actually doing software, but now they wanted to get into that new stuff. They actually wanted to version control their files, right? And so I was young at that time, and they asked me. I think I was expendable, so they said, "Could you please go and examine what kind of version control tool would we use at this point?" So I was.
Was this the 80s or the 90s then?
No, 90s,
right.
Late 90s, yeah,
okay.
Mid 90s. So I would go and investigate our options, and at that point there was really only one tool that could, that was useful, and that would be
the C word.
ClearCase. That was the only thing that was mature enough actually to take on a bank. So okay, so we ended up installing ClearCase and rolling that out, so the first couple of years of my career was actually all about ClearCase. I was implementing ClearCase. I became a ClearCase expert. I worked with Ericsson, Sony Ericsson, for many years, doing all the ClearCase stuff.
Okay.
But that's a good story. When I started with Ericsson, we were like 2 people and 3 servers. Like 5 years later, we were again just me, but now we had 36 servers. And in between, we had grown to be like a team of 16, 70 people, because the server park just grew and grew and grew. At some point, we saw that this is not making any sense at all. We need to automate stuff. So all the things that we were doing, we started writing Perl scripts that basically did what all the people did.
Right.
So we automated stuff. Yeah. So we were maintaining all these ClearCase servers through all our scripts, and at the end it was just me, sitting maintaining the scripts and running all these servers.
I mean, I think that's the thing. I mean, just whizzing about a bit, just to jump in a second, but that's the interesting thing is that you basically talking about handcrafting and looking after the whole system development life cycle, within a small team. For the whole
so actually I was not even that into the team. I wasn't that into the team. I was in the IT department. I was not part of the software development team, because we were doing backend. ClearCase was seen as a backend product, right? So I was like the IT people maintaining the network or the mail server, or I was just sitting there maintaining the ClearCase servers. I was definitely not considered software developer. I was ops, right?
Okay.
But what was interesting was really that all my users were software developers, and they were the ones who would come to me and complain about one thing or another that wouldn't work. So I actually became a bridge between IT and dev, because software developers didn't know what I was doing, and IT didn't know what I was doing either. So I was basically, we called it application management.
Yeah, you were like the glue between the devs and the ops.
Yeah, I was essentially the DevOps, right?
You were looking into your crystal ball, and you knew in the
exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Fast forward to 20 years later. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, but you see, if you think about it, so you were looking at you were managing the software assets of those companies. Yeah.
Yes.
All that time ago, and obviously people wouldn't have realized how important that software was to that company.
I think they knew, but what they learned pretty quick is that all the tooling that surrounds the software development is really, really important. This was in Ericsson and Sony Ericsson context when I did a lot of this, and it was back on the old mobile phones, and they would have like a couple of hundred modules in a component-oriented system architecture into these phones. So it was really about maintaining all the dependency management between all these modules and tying it together using a system like a version control system and dependency management and stuff like that. So they were very aware that the complexity that they needed to manage in their mobile phones needed some really efficient tooling around it.
Yeah.
it was a cool place to work actually, because they.
Yes, I mean, I suppose mobile was always, kind of quite at the forefront, because it really is.
Yeah.
It's an engineering discipline. You have to build software that works. It has a massive impact if you have defects. It's all that kind of stuff, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, okay, that's interesting. So really, what you're saying is that you kind of did you fall into it, or was it by design? Because of your education background, your extension logically was to go from your computer science background into IT, into technology. That was how it evolved from your kind of what you did as your day job, and what got you up in the morning was helping Sony Ericsson sort their software assets out and making sure they deliver a good outcome, a good product.
Yeah, exactly. And I was very proud about this. So I think I always, back then, even if it's a long time ago now, 20 years almost, I was really proud about it. I would consider myself a software developer, right? The software developers would consider me, one of the guys in IT operations, but I would program everything, right? I would turn everything into something that would be executable. I would not log into a server and do stuff, right? I would just, back then we would use remote desktops, and so I would remote desktop into my computer and run a Perl script, right? I wouldn't do anything actually.
So it's basically applying a programmatic mindset to operations, which
exactly.
Now with automation and machines and everything like that today, that's kind of like it's a given today, but actually all those years ago it wasn't as obviously amplified to the stage it is now today.
No, exactly. That's true. I mean, I don't know, some of the old people out there that are as old as we are, they know what the case is. But
as young as we are, Lars. Come on.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. No, but I think ClearCase was kind of considered a thing that was very Perl oriented, because you would run all your triggers, all your hooks in Perl. So it was kind of embedded in the whole concept of ClearCase that you would be a Perl programmer. But
it's quite low level then, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, but you would just be hacking a lot of triggers. I was using Perl for basically automating the entire infrastructure.
Yeah.
So that was quite fun. And
so if you fast forward to where you are today, and what are the kind of projects that you work in? What are the kind of organizations that you've built? What could you give us a bit of a flavor of that?
Yeah. So fast forward, when I stopped doing working by myself as a ClearCase specialist for hire, I started a company with we were 3 people who bootstrapped a company, Praqma. And we wanted to build a software development, a consultancy bureau where we would like to work ourselves. So we wanted to revolutionize the whole consulting business really, and make, actually deliver not arms and legs, but expertise to people who needed it. And that company just grew into becoming a DevOps, continuous delivery specialist company. In the beginning, these words didn't exist. We started in 2007, and DevOps, well, it started there, but the word didn't get widespread until 2009, 2010.
Is that when Praqma was born then, officially? 2000?
Yes, 2007. Praqma was born. So fast forward 10 years later, we're now 50 people. We're in 3 countries, and we're still continuous delivery and DevOps.
So just a quick question on that. So you said DevOps, you say continuous delivery. What to the audience that may be listening, maybe not everybody understands what that actually is. Could you just explain in layman's terms what that would be to the average person on the street? What does that actually mean?
So I think the average person, that if you want to explain this, then you would probably start with something like Agile or Lean. I think most people can relate to that in one way. This is things that they have heard before. Lean is like a production system that was originally designed for optimizing car factories in Japan, like the Toyota production system, Six Sigma, blah blah blah. And at some point, people kind of started thinking that maybe if you want to do software, you don't want to optimize your processes the same way that you're building a skyscraper or a bridge. Maybe you want to optimize your processes the same way that you're trying to optimize the layout of a factory floor. So this whole Lean approach became Agile. So agile is a way of organizing stuff in the technology world. It has some.
When was the year the Agile Manifesto was written? I can't remember what year was that. Can you remember?
Was it 80?
Martin Fowler and all those guys, wasn't it? It's was it early? Was it mid 2000s? Something like that.
Yeah, something like, I think it's 2002. Should we look it up? Yeah, so back then the Agile Manifesto was basically a bunch of people coming together. 2001, a lot of things happened there, right? 2001, people were taking on a lot of these technologies like pair programming and test-driven development and the Scrum and stuff like that. So it's like a war going on, right? People were discussing what is Agile, what isn't Agile, how do we want to do this? And a bunch of people like celebrities, today's celebrities, back then they were just, they were nobodies, but back then they were like, they would meet in a skiing resort in Utah and discuss what is Agile, and they would come up with an Agile manifesto.
If you think about it, 2001, that was the dot-com boom and bust, wasn't it? That was when there was all that kind of big hyper curve of investment.
That was when it bursted, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was one of the fallouts where actually the principles of Agile Manifesto came out, and then start to calm down and get back to I don't know, you can always consider it normal, but more normal.
Yeah, so I think in software development it is considered normal, right? So the Agile Manifesto itself is just like 4 doctrines, right? We want individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, blah blah blah, right? So there are 4 like doctrines that drives the manifesto. But a couple of years later, they had so much feedback that they actually expanded the manifesto into having 12, supporting principles.
Yeah.
And these principles, so they were like part of a feedback loop, right? They were users reading the manifesto who would then give a lot of feedback. And these principles are interesting. The first one of these, the first principle in the Agile Manifesto is called "Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software." So this is where the whole conceptual idea of continuous delivery comes in. Right, so we're trying to get the software development phases out of the equation. So it's not like we have an inception phase and a development phase and the testing phase and deployment phase and a release phase.
Oh, that kind of classic waterfall kind
of. Yeah, so there are no phases in Agile. So this is really how you would optimize a factory floor. What you want is that you want a flow, right? You want to create a flow. So like in a Toyota factory, in comes iron and out comes, nice Toyotas, right? So everything in there, between there is just a flow, and everything, you just try to optimize that flow. So this is something that is adapted into Agile. We want to keep it a flow. So we want to continuously deliver valuable software instead of, giving it in
so it's basically, it's the continuous piece is the flow piece, and then delivering kind of the outcome focus, which satisfies the customer. That's kind of what you kind of say is the pipeline. Yeah, okay.
Yes. And this is really interesting because this is a good concept. And in 2001, people were looking at this and this is really cool. We want this. But then again, it turns out that if you want a continuous delivery flow, then you need to build quality into your software instead of gluing it on after it's done, which means that software developers need to have access to all the processes that are part of the definition of done. And that would be running a full regression test on your functional test. That would be trying to deploy to a production-like environment. And most software developers weren't doing all of that. They would literally write the software and then hand it over to somebody who would test it, who would then hand it over to somebody who would try to make it run on a server.
It's like a rugby.
Hand it over to somebody who would try. And all these handovers, they're really, really dangerous. This is where you build in all the stuff that doesn't work in software, right? So task switching is one of the 7 ways that you want to get rid of in Lean, right? Handing over stuff. So what we want to do is that we want to make software developers available or capable of testing everything that is, verifying everything that is part of our definition of done. So, and this requires
I
infrastructure.
think you quite eloquently described continuous delivery. What about this other phrase you use, which is DevOps?
Yeah, but this is actually what we're getting at now, because this is essentially what we're getting at now. Because if you want to do all of this, then you have a shortage of you need to depend on an infrastructure. Right? If software developers are supposed to do this, then if you want to run your functional test, you need to run them somewhere. Right now, you are sitting on your own computer, but you want to run it on a production-like environment. Where is my production-like environment? A lot of companies, they would have like hundreds and hundreds of software developers employed, and still they would only have like 3 environments, right? Development, stage, and production.
Yeah.
So how could everyone basically make sure that everything was running and tested before it's delivered if you only have like one shared development environment for 200 people? So every software developer needs access to production-like environment, and this is where DevOps come in, because DevOps is essentially an agile infrastructure.
Actually, so it's kind of DevOps is kind of now allowing you to scale the development process.
Yes, so DevOps is actually just a cool word about developers and operations. Because in the first gatherings, those people who later formed DevOps as a movement, the first gatherings that they had before they started calling it DevOps, they called it agile infrastructure.
Oh, did they? I didn't realize that. That was the code word before DevOps, was it? Okay.
Yes. So that's actually where DevOps comes from, right?
Agile infrastructure, that's AI. Maybe that's what AI means.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, the way that is dangerous. So cool. No, but the thing is that so DevOps is just a cool word, because if you want an agile infrastructure, then you need devs and ops to be in the same room. You don't have any handovers and blah blah blah. And then DevOps, that's a really cool word, and people can.
It's really interesting. You remember when we were in Berlin a few years ago together, and I don't remember my speech when I talked about lessons from the front line. And I did this kind of straw poll of about 200 people. Okay, who are developers in the audience? Put your hand up. Who are operations people in it? Okay, do you talk to each other? Oh, no, we don't talk to each other. We just do our work and then we go home.
Yeah.
It's like this kind of cultural phenomenon about actually how do you get them to work together as one seamless team rather than just bring it over from one castle to another castle.
Yes, exactly. They're just throwing stuff over the wall, right? And this, I'm doing a lot of presentation and speaks, and sometimes, and these are always related to DevOps or continuous delivery one way or the other. And it's not seldom I would ask my audience, how many of you are, like you just said, how many of you are ops, how many of you are DevOps or developers, and even at a DevOps conference, right, you would get like 85% of the people would be developers, and maybe 15% would be ops. So the whole DevOps movement is basically swamped with developers. There are almost no ops people in that movement.
But don't you think the funny thing is, remember, I don't know if you remember, we're probably both old enough. You remember Prince, right? The pop star, yeah?
Yeah.
Artist, remember when he was Symbol, the artist formerly known as Symbol, yeah?
Yes.
As Prince. So it's a bit like, what I notice is there's not only developers, but there's also operations people.
Yeah.
Then there's also people who've rebranded themselves as DevOps people. Yeah? So, so that's when I go, okay, well, actually, what is your background? So I personally, I was a developer originally many years ago. Then I was an ops guy as well, so I'm kind of a bit of a hybrid. Yeah, I don't actually know if it came down to whether at which side I would sit on, or maybe I'd straddle a bit, but one leg in each camp. Yeah, but it's fascinating how it's created actually new roles in organizations and new career structures for people as well. Yeah, it's fascinating.
It is, yes.
So it sounds like on the if you talk back to the G&T, growth and technology, on the T side, the technology side, you kind of have because of your education cycle that you went through, then you logically went into technology as a career, yeah.
Yes.
But then also from a growth point of view, some people stay in have a career in multiple organizations and they go to more senior positions, but you actually sounds like you embarked on not only your personal growth plan but also your business growth plan quite early on. You were kind of you said 3 or 4 years, and then you went out on your own, and you were defining your own motorway, you're applying your own furrow around what your thoughts around that was. What can you just explain what drove you to that? Why did you do that? Why did you not stay in, stay in Sony Ericsson, work for Sony Ericsson for 20 years? Is there a reason? What drove you to say, yeah, I want to create Praqma with Leaf? Is it Leaf, the guy who are the
Life? Yes.
Life, yeah.
So I think that's another aspect that's really important to me. That's the whole aspect of consultancy. And this is also what we wanted to do in Praqma. So in the beginning, Praqma was not necessarily about DevOps or continuous delivery or version control systems. It was really about consultancy. We wanted to create a consultancy bureau where consultancy was done right. So this has very much to do with the fact that maybe I have an approach to helping people that I want to create value. Right. So it was very much, and I had a problem with being unemployed. For some reason, I always got problems with my employers. Right. Every time I ended up in a place and I had a boss, and the boss would try to micromanagement, I would just turn around on my heels and walk away. I said, I mean, it's like, I didn't like that. I wanted to be able to tell straight to the people that I was helping, saying, what you're trying to implement now is not a good idea. What I would rather want you to do is blah blah blah. Right. Yeah. So I would look at what we did in the consulting business and say, we're not just hired help. I mean, it's not like I'm just going to reinforce your workforce and be the guy that you can't hire because it's a heated market and now you just buy your resources from a pool of consultants. What I want to do is that I want to give advice. I want to go in and be an expert in something, and I would expect people to take my advice.
So you want to have impact. You want to make a difference. Is that
yes? And actually, so it was also professional pride, saying that if I know what's going on here, I mean, then it's like a meritocracy, right? Where people who knows the most gets to decide the most. It's really, really frustrating to be in a situation where you have developed a lot of skill or expertise in something. And really, when you try to bring that to the table, people just say, yeah, you know who I am? I'm your boss, right? It's got to be the way that I want it. Say, okay, yeah, you don't know anything about what you're talking about, so why do you get to decide, right?
That's, I mean, so from a personal point of view, that sounds like there's that inner steel, as I would call it. So, so one of the things that it'd be interesting to get your perspective on now is about, so everybody's got experiences about what I would call peaks and troughs. Yeah. So they've had some highs, they've had maybe some valleys and some mountains. Yeah. Any little stories that you could share about with the audience about your peaks and troughs? Because I think my personal situation is that I've had some peaks and I've had some troughs, and I've learned a hell of a lot from the troughs, maybe more from the troughs than from the peaks. Yeah. And it shapes your perspective on things and how what you do in the future. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I mean, take the good stories first. I think
is that the peaks or the troughs? Yeah.
Praqma is really something that I'm really proud of that we built, because we managed to build a company which completely self-sustained. We don't have any venture capitalist or anything in this company. This is essentially just me and Life starting the company, building it from ground up, earning money, hiring more people, earning more money, earning more. So basically, we invested everything that we earned in the company back into the company as growth.
Wow.
The truth is that we never became rich, but we managed to build a company that has the potential of being something big someday. Mm-hmm. And this is where we are right now. And in this entire process, we have managed to onboard people who are really, really, really good and skilled. So our employees are some of the best that are out there, and they're highly wanted on the market where we are. I mean, some of them get jobs offers, every week, and still we don't lose anybody to the market. People stay in Praqma, and the reason why they do that is
an organization that is very sticky and very engaging.
Yes, people want to be there, right? People are learning so fast, right? Today we're experts in technologies that doesn't even exist 3 years ago, and these are not people who were hired to do this, right? They actually got to learn these technologies while they were employed in our company, right? So today we're experts in Docker and Kubernetes and Jenkins and Travis and RC Factory, all these kinds of tools that didn't even exist when we started the company in 2007. And we developed this level of skill while actually earning money doing it, right?
So quick question then. So did you hire on attitude or did you hire on aptitude?
Oh, attitude, really. So first and foremost, what we are is that we're a consultancy bureau, right? And the technologies that we are teaching or offering to our customers, they're changing. So we know for a fact that the technologies that we will be advising on to our customers in 5 years, that would also be technologies that doesn't even exist today, right?
Yeah.
So it's very much looking at people. I mean, are they potentially good consultants? Do they have that kind of energy that say they want to deliver value, or they know what they're doing, or they want to give advice or whatever? So we're really trying to hire people that could be good consultants. And we.
So do they have those kind of characteristics in that DNA that obviously you and Leif originally saw when you got together? You're trying to effectively bring. It's like a tribe, isn't it? It's like the Seth Godin stuff about, you create the tribe and you attract people who add to the gene pool.
Yes.
And who build your tribe and
Yes.
are very passionate about it, and they also contribute to the tribe. So they
yes,
don't
very much.
It's not a. I don't know if. Well, I get a sense of how it works anyway because of the stuff we've done before. But there's definitely a two-way dialogue. It's not as though you hire people who you tell. They
no,
tell.
Exactly. So, but you're absolutely right. We actually used
the relationship.
You're right. We use the term tribe ourselves, saying that what we have is a tribe, but we also try to avoid the problem that might happen from a lot of group thinking, right? So it's not like we want people to be the same or think alike. So everyone is invited in to actually help develop the culture that we have. So people can contribute, and we're going to change in the future. I mean, we're changing constantly. Praqma is not what it was 5 years ago, and it's not going to be the same in 5 years from now. And this is going to happen because we're going to hire people who's going to change the company, right? So at any point in time, our company is made up of the people who are employed by the company. So we give people a lot of room to be part of defining who we are and what we want to do. And I think that is why people actually like being there. And we're educating people. Literally, we're giving pro bono teaching to a lot of universities. We're nurturing the community. We're giving events, and we're doing conferences and stuff like that. So we're trying to be we're trying to create a honeypot of really, really good stuff.
So you're like the Wizard of Oz, aren't you? You're building the yellow brick road.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you talked about that's good. That's a good story around growth, around the peaks. Any trough examples or stories you want to share? Obviously, everybody has them. It's just, I think, being vulnerable and opening up about any troughs that you've had that you think about that will be relevant to talk about.
Yeah, I think in one way, Praqma is also that story about the things that didn't go quite the way that we wanted it to. But that was like it's more like a marriage. When you get that close to people, you get really, really close, and you also experience that maybe you have different opinions about you want to go one way or you want to go another way, and maybe you can't always basically find common grounds on if you want to go right or left. And we in Praqma we saw that the company grew into something that needed some other what you could say, some other a different leadership than the leadership that I would be able to represent. So I'm really good at startups and getting things going and inspiring people and having them develop. But today, I think when 50 people in 3 countries and blah, it's a different kind of leadership.
Yeah,
and
quite a bit of complexity there as well, isn't there, to manage? Yeah.
No, and I think to have that insight from me, basically, and have the discussions with my partner colleagues. So we're three partners in Praqma now,
Okay.
and basically figuring out what's going to happen in the future. Where am I going to be? And today I'm part of the I'm part of the board. I'm still a majority owner of the company, but
Okay.
I'm like a chairman of the board. I call myself a rainmaker. So I'm an ambassador for the company, but I have my partner colleagues actually running the company today.
What you're saying is you're less operational, but you're more. Well, yeah, I wouldn't say you're rainmaker. You should call it sunmaker.
Yeah,
Sun's better than rain.
No, basically, rain is cool.
If you're in Copenhagen, maybe snowmaker.
No, if there's a drought and what you need is rain, then what you do is that you do a rain dance, and then you're a rainmaker, right?
Ah, yeah. I see. Yeah. Okay, I must see that. I must see that dancing next time we meet.
Yeah, exactly. So no.
So just a question. So part of what I observed is that you've obviously used your as you've evolved your career, as you've evolved growing the Praqma business.
Mm-hmm.
But I get the sense that, I don't know, maybe this is something that maybe we just touch on now, is that there's obviously something about your DNA, about your personal story, about how did you get to that point? It's this thing about how did you. There's obviously something about what you've done, that you've been entrepreneurial, you've been brave, you've been bold. You had to create a brand new company, and then operate in multiple countries and have tens and tens of people. And I know what you've done globally, and it's very impressive, right? And I know you talk about celebrity, and I know that you are a celebrity.
You're a celebrity, right? I mean, this is your podcast series.
You are the celebrity. So that in this industry, everybody knows you in this industry because of the stuff that you've achieved with your stuff you've done so far. And I know there's a lot more to come. Yeah. So what is there something that you think within your childhood that helped you set yourself up for this journey? Is anything you reflect on that?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is getting quite personal then. Yes, but there
is. I rationalize it all the time about what did I go through. Yeah. And I'm just opening up to you, for you to explain. I'll rationalize. I'll try and work out what were the triggers around that, and I can share that as well.
Yeah, but no, I think there's no doubt that this is part of. This is part of me. It's part of who I am. But I am the person I became because of the things that happened to me. So and yes, I think my childhood was, my dad died really early. I was only 5 years old when he died. So I grew up with my mother and
okay.
I have 3 siblings. We were together. They moved out pretty soon, pretty early. So when I was just like 12 years old, it was just me and my mom back. All my siblings moved out.
Okay.
And then we moved, and I moved away from home when I was 17 and got my own flat and basically moved to Copenhagen at that point. And so I've always been, very independent. Right. Okay. And remember, this is again, I'm child of the 60s, 70s, right?
Yeah.
So back then times were different, right?
Yeah.
We have, I don't know if you do that. In Denmark, we have a concept we call curling kids. You use that term in UK. So basically, no, it's like curling, right? So basically, the parents are in front of their kids, sweeping every obstacle away from them.
See. Right? Yeah. Okay.
And in the 70s, things were different, right? People were basically just, so
get out there.
It was a different time back then.
Yeah.
So
thanks for sharing that, because I think that starts to explain a little bit to me about there's that inner strength that I always see, in and also what you just talking about a bit earlier about there's kind of that drive, that resilience, that you and to do that personally, and then to go out on your own, and then to build a business that you've done, and to have the success you've had so far. And it's really interesting to listen. It's those trigger things that have happened through your life that help you become the the person you do because of the experiences you go through, don't they? So that's that's shaped me as well. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, but I think you're right that it really comes from. I mean, obviously there is a background there that one can point to and say, I mean, I am a product of what I became, kind of, the events that happens and the way things turns out and the time that the times were different back then. So, but again, I think. Any other particular downs? I don't know. I mean, I think I'm like a tumbler, right? So I'm the kind of person that basically gets up again when things fall apart. So
right.
But it's been rough for me basically to build that company Praqma, and then to maybe realize that maybe I don't necessarily need to be part of that anymore. Maybe I need to go and do something else instead. So, but at least actually that's what I did. So now I start a new company instead.
Well, I suppose that's a really good segue. So I suppose it's thinking about what's occupying your mind today. It sounds like if you're chairman of the board and you obviously you've got Praqma to a really impressive sustainable business, but what does the next few chapters look like for Lars? What's taking your mind share up at the moment? Where's your head at? Where are you going? What are you? Spending your time, and what's kicking you out of bed every morning these days?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a lot of projects going on. I mean, we call them bubbles, right? Different bubbles.
Yes, exactly.
So
bubbles.
Some of them might grow to a size where they might grow. Actually, I don't know, but sorry. So one bubble I have, and it's been going on for a couple of years now, it's also that it's my communication background, where I'm really interested in marketing and communication and stuff like that. So I was also a part of a co-founder of a company in UK that does branding and marketing through storytelling, company called Fable.
Right.
So I'm spending some time actually helping these people in this company. There are two main employees in the company who are running the company, and I'm a bit of a bystander, but I'm helping out and giving advice, and I'm spending quite some time actually helping grow that company.
Okay.
And then I'm still working with customers, so I'm still working as a consultant. That's in the context of Praqma, where I'm maybe not part of the management, but I'm still part of the consulting team, really. And we're helping companies in their digital transformation, basically giving advice on how to develop continuous delivery and DevOps in the organizations.
To build internal capabilities in those organizations.
Yes, exactly. Because people are talking about tools and stuff like that, but it turns out really that it's not really about tools. It's about organizational change. It's about incentive structures. It's about a lot of things. So I spent time giving advice to companies on those things. And then I built a company called ProLike, like a pro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and ProLike is a concept of engaging young people, young independent professionals. We call them yippies, right?
Not yuppies. Yippies.
No, yippies. Young independent professionals.
Okay.
So these are people that are either they're in the middle of an education, maybe they have a Sabbath year, maybe they're actually self-taught, but they're young people in some place in their life where they're about to learn the ropes about being a consultant, being a tech consultant. So we engage them in this company ProLike, and we engage them in a master apprentice like relation. So we have masters in the company, and these are the apprentices. So we actually sell them as consultants.
Or sorcerers. You could have sorcerers as well, couldn't you?
Yes, and but we put them into the front row. We put them out to the customers, and so we kind of enable them in like a practicum or an internship where we give them real problems, real customers to solve with. So it's not just about software development and that stuff. It's also about expectation management and planning and following up and doing account management with customers. So we're basically aiming towards people who maybe have a freelancer or a self-employed or an innovator, hidden inside their stomach, trying to get it out.
Is this like the gig economy then? This new gig economy that's appealing to that. But it's also just based on what you just described as your background, it's also a bit like holding a mirror up to yourself 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think in some way it is. I would like to think that I would be able to give a lot of advice to people, and I'm looking at myself and saying what it is that I'm really, really good at, and when I look into the mirror, I'm confident enough to say there are a lot of things that I'm good at, but it's not easy to describe. So I would basically just try to put myself in a position where I could give that I have, whatever it is that I'm good at, and give it to something and build a business on that. And it turns out that I'm actually really good at mentoring these young people and make them grow. And
what's their age range? What are the age range of the people you inducting or bringing on into ProLike?
They would be from early 20s on to 30 years, something like that. At that point, so essentially, ProLike is a company that only engage people that are not full-time employees, because when they're full-time employees, they're not then they are professionals, right? And they need to go out and get a real job. So the idea of ProLike is that people are moving up or over or out. Right, so they're moving up in the company to get a full-time employment, but then they would have obligations in basically running the company and not just invoicing the customers, or they would move over, which is basically a try and hire approach. So that they might actually get employed by the customers that they have been working with while they were employed in ProLike. So ProLike is also a bit of a recruitment central, right, where companies can get in contact with young people, have them do a bit of work for them, and maybe swap one for another, and then if they find the young person that's really capable of doing exactly what they need, and then at some point they might actually get to hire that person. So it's a try and hire. So that will be moving over to the customer that you've been working for, or you would move out, which basically means that you would move out of the company, become a ProLike ambassador, start your own company, become a freelancer, become an innovator, something like that. And you would be proud and say, everything that I learned that in ProLike. Because
but some of the constructs you just talked about just then, that is a global phenomenon. That could be a global concept.
Definitely.
It doesn't have to just be in Denmark, does it? Or
no. The whole concept is the idea here is that in the entire world there are only like 23 million software developers, and we need a lot more software developers. And here, for instance, I have customers, some of these that I'm giving advice to, that they have a headquarter in Copenhagen, and they think that they can actually hire the software developers that they need in commuter distance from Copenhagen, and the only language they speak is Danish. And they think that they'll be able to. They think that they'll actually be able to develop software using this strategy going forward. So the truth is that the world is becoming distributed. So we need to develop companies that are distributed. So ProLike is like a self-service company where people would log their own time in a system, and then that system would automatically pay out their salary while also automatically invoice their customers. So It's more like a platform or an infrastructure for young wannabe freelancers and innovators, where they could go in there and learn the ropes, and maybe even take this platform and utilize that in their own company. And everything is we don't have headquarters or offices or work. People are expected to work, I don't know, from home or from cafes or from their customers. We're not spending a lot of money on establishing offices, but we are traveling.
You just need a GitHub account and
exactly, a GitHub account and a Travis CI account, and then we're up and running, right? And then Docker and Kubernetes and Amazon and the Slack, and that's it. And the whole idea is that this is how we want to build a modern company that is distributed by nature.
Just a quick question on that stat. I mean, that's an amazing stat. 23. So if you say there's roughly 7 billion people in the world, and you're saying that software is eating the world.
Yeah.
Like only 23 million developers or software craftsmen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And then you might have like 7-8 million hobbyists or something like that. But again, you would not go about like 30 million software
that's going
developers.
to be a very long. Going to be a very long dinner and lunch. It's going to be like a 25 million course lunch, because those software developers are going to take a long time to eat the world, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. I mean, if software is eating the world, then that number is definitely not large enough. And if that, and we need to make people available. We need to have a lot of more people actually looking at software and saying, this is a cool industry. We really want to make software, and we want these people to build companies and grow and be available everywhere. So it doesn't matter if they live on, I don't know, Isle of Man, or if they live in New York or whatever, they would still be available as software developers. And we need to develop. I mean, one of the principles that we have in the agile, the principles in agile is that people. It says the most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation.
Yeah.
So this was an ideal in 2001, and this is while this is still an ideal statement. It's just not true, because people aren't in the same room. So we need to compensate for that in a way where we actually built collaboration platforms that are really, really good and supportive, right? And then we need to say, but even that is potentially not good enough. So then we need to meet in real life away from keyboard. So instead of burning all our money on rent, on office space, we burn the money on traveling. So once every month or second month, we actually bring everyone together.
So you're like a global gathering kind of concept.
Yes. So we're doing gatherings. We actually call them that. So it's a gathering. All right. So we gather away from keyboard, and then we have our own small, kind of open space discussion, 1-day conference where people get to meet and, have good fun and discuss issues and stuff like that.
So what you're saying is some of the agile principles that were crafted 17 years ago are timeless. Yeah. It's still about humans. You can't live as, you can't live forever. You can't exist forever remotely. You've got to have that human interaction. But it's actually how you complement that with using technology to operate as efficiently as possible, and to, well, I mean, I'm still recovering from that stat about the 23 million developers. It's just, I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Yes, it is. Yeah, but
I mean, I think that's a really. I mean, I want feedback to that. That ProLike sounds like a really good quest. It sounds like a really great mission. It's like a really fantastic mission to take that globally. I don't know if that's where your head's at, but I think that's a global phenomenon. That's a industry-changing, disruptive idea.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like that.
That's a moonshot.
That villain in
that's a moonshot, man. That's a moonshot.
I'm like the villain in James Bond, right? That says,
What, you mean the one that strokes the cat?
Gonna take on the world, right? But I'm hoping that it might happen, that this could grow into basically becoming, I could easily see that ProLike could become more like a platform. And what could really be fun is that if this platform really expands and the stack is useful and we build a collaboration platform, another thing that we're doing is that ProLike is also different in the sense that for 10 years now, we have been trying to teach people that they're supposed to prepare themselves for the digital transformation, right? It's going to eat you. But ProLike is different. We're not acting as if we're going to prepare for this. We're more picky with our customers in the sense that it's like famous sci-fi writer William Gibson said something like, the future is already here. It's just not even a distant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what we act as if we're only going to work for the companies that actually get it, that actually gets that this is what they want. So when we're working in an agile Kanban style approach. We're using a collaborative tool stack. We don't do deadlines. We do tasks and issues. We do continuous delivery. So we build everything we build the quality into the continuous delivery approach. So and this is the way that we want to work.
It's like a new way. It's a new way of working, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And if you want to get access to some of these young, skilled people in ProLike, then you need to tap into this. So you can't say, yeah, it's all good, and but can you meet our deadlines, and can you do waterfall software development, blah blah. No, we can't. So we're picky with our customers. We only work for customers who get it. Programmable, immutable, and serverless, and all that stuff, right?
So that's a really good link to some of the other things I want to raise around. You obviously you've been a founder, right? So you founded a tech company, effectively. But then also you've helped other tech companies, and you've helped other companies who are not tech companies try to be tech companies. Yeah.
Yes.
And the reason they did that was because they wanted to grow. Yeah, they want to compete. They want to make sure they don't get compromised in their market. Yeah, so they can keep customers, they can grow customers, etc.
Yes.
The interesting thing for me is I suppose about the thing about the audience of the G&T sessions. It's going to be founders, it's going to be co-founders, it's going to be leadership teams, it's going to be CEOs of tech companies. Given you've been there, and then you're also founding new companies now as well. What would be your kind of takeaways? What are the kind of some of the lessons, or if you were going to say 3 to 5 takeaways from today's episode about really think about these things, because these things are really, really important. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think one of them is really boring because it's kind of textbook stuff and people say, oh, yada, 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 not again. But one of them is this whole vision, mission, tactics, strategy discussion, right? So, I mean, you're never going to be really successful and create something that the world is going to admire, say, wow, that is cool and special, unless it actually is truly special in one way, right?
Right.
So this is something about this whole kind of concept about blue ocean thinking and red ocean thinking, where you basically say that if you want to go and fish in the water, is that the water where everyone else is also fishing, and that's colored red by dead bodies being eaten by sharks, fighting over lumps or whatever. If that is if your strategy is red ocean, don't do it, because you're going to be eaten. You want to have a blue ocean strategy. You want to have something that actually can define you, right? You need to have a vision that can carry your ambitions.
A differentiated position.
Yes.
An unfair advantage.
Yes. Raison d'être. There needs to be a reason why you exist. You need to be able to answer that question. Why do you exist? Why are you different from somebody else?
Yeah.
If you're not different from somebody else, if the only thing, a lot of these people, they would start a company, they would start a consultancy bureau, and they would say, our mission is to create value for our customers. That is boring. That is not a mission, right? That is just basically, the mission is, I want to become filthy rich. Right? So
that's interesting point. So
if that is your mission, then that is,
But what you're highlighting is that the thing about the gold rush, because what I've noticed in the last 5 to 10 years is that because of the success, the ag for boys, as I call it, Apple, Google, Facebook, Amazon phenomenon, these become titans, and it's created this massive gold rush of talent to say, okay, how do I get involved in tech? I was with some guys from University of Cambridge the other week, engineering degrees. They're suddenly not going into investment banking. They want to be in tech. And I go, why do you want to be in tech? He says, because it's such a cool place to be. And it's just where it's all happening. And they would normally go into the city and be working in investment banking and trading. So there's this kind of halo effect then. But then what you're saying is, it's back to fundamentals. It's the so what factor. You pitch, why do you exist? Blah, blah, blah. Actually, well, that's not really very differentiated. That's commodity, So
exactly.
What you're saying is folks really, really think hard about how you differentiate and how you have that unfair advantage.
You need to know why you're there, right?
Thank you.
If you go into tech, it's because you're just that kind of person that needs to look under the hood and see what's happening. If software is eating the world, then you need to know what that software thing is. You don't go into tech because you want to become rich, right? You do, and you can get rich in tech, but then you're not the one driving a company. It's going to be something else. It's
going to be a higher purpose, isn't it? Really, it's going to be a higher purpose than making money.
Yeah, you have to have a calling, right? A purpose. Yeah, that's one thing. I would say make sure that your strategy is a kind of a blue ocean strategy. Make sure that you're special, and then again, it's all about make sure that you tell that story.
Yeah,
because it's all about storytelling. I mean, you are. That's really true, right? So you want to control the story about who you are and what you do, and this is the most important thing. And this is something that we have been doing in Praqma for a long time, where we have been looking at sales and marketing and sales versus marketing. And we have been really successful in Praqma for many years with just one salesperson. So maybe
he's very good. He's very good. We know
he's very good, and maybe it doesn't scale. Maybe it doesn't scale beyond where we are now. We need to do more, focus on selling. But
well, you see, it's this thing. Think about Mike Cannon-Brookes and Scott Farquhar. The geniuses of Australia, our friends in Sydney, Look at what they've created with Atlassian, and they officially have no salespeople, because everybody's in sales, everybody's looking after customers, And I was looking at their values the other day, and you've probably seen their values. One of them is don't FUCK the customer. That's one of their values. I mean, it's fantastic. It's like, yes, that is absolutely spot on. That's in the bullseye. Look after your customers.
Yes, but that is great, and that is true, right? And I think that I would argue and advocate that when you build a company and you grow it, don't hire any salespeople, because hire marketing people, create value, go and give that value away, right? Find somebody who wants what you have, make them. I mean, this is the whole inbound marketing strategy, basically. That the traffic is going to be
become magnetic. Company.
Yes,
become magnetic.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of companies get this kind of wrong, in the sense that they say, oh, inbound marketing, that's so much about social media, right? So inbound marketing, that means that I need to have a Twitter account and a Google account and a LinkedIn account, and then I need to spam the entire world on Twitter and LinkedIn, because that's what. But this is not what inbound marketing is, right? It's not about social media. It's really about you controlling the story and giving away value. People should fall in love with you. So you should have a strategy. What is your strategy for how people should fall in love with your company?
Right. Hearts and minds.
Yeah. So basically, make sure that you're special, and make sure you have a strategy for how people fall in love with your company, and then that's going to take you off. So
that's really good advice. That's really insightful. Thank you. Okay, so I can't believe where we are, but thank you so much for being on this episode today. I always knew, Lars, that this would be a good episode. And you are so good. I'm going to invite you back.
Okay, good. Next time, I would love to come back. Yes,
we're going to be drinking gin and tonic next time.
Yes, exactly. I was yes. So I was when you said gin and tonics, GN sessions, I was thinking more like those old comic clips from Dave Allen. Local comedian sitting there in a bar stool sipping whiskey.
Sat on the chair with a cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that you would invite me in a bar stool and offer me a cigarette and a gin tonic, and we would sit there and chat like Dave Allen. So I think that would be a good concept, but we can do that next. Never
say never.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I better go and order the bar stools now.
Yeah, do that.
Well, actually, So actually, that's a very good build. Thank you for that suggestion, and that will happen.
Perfect. Good. Looking forward to that.
That's a public affirmation that we will be sat on bar stools doing the next interview
with real gin and tonics.
With Britney Spears kind of like microphones on, probably. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Oops, I did it again.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you. This has been episode 4 of the G&T sessions, with Andrew Turner as your host, and the amazing Lars Kruse from the lovely place Copenhagen in Denmark, Chairman, Rainmaker, and General Raconteur of the Scandinavian region. And it sounds like you've got some really exciting stuff going on there, Lars, and I'm sure we'll be speaking very soon. Thanks for your time, and have an amazing Friday, an amazing weekend. And that's the end of the G&T sessions for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.